My past will outlast me. Ask me if I agree with my choices now. I'd say no. I'd ask if that's me, 'cause I don't recognize myself anymore. No, sir. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna rebel, stepping up to the plate, give them hell, feeling great, show and tell, devastate. I've taken my fair share of beatings and I've retreated and bleeded, but my kids were dying for to give her something to believe in. You're gonna trip, you're gonna fall, you're gonna land face down in the dirt. But when you're done, you'll no longer crawl. You'll be invincible from the hurt.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 11 of the Round Table Show. This week, we're going to be looking into a couple of different episodes from the Typical Skeptic over the last little bit. Rob just kind of went gangbusters on the entire SRA and SSP. Sorry, stumbling over my words already. The two that we're going to be covering today is Audrey Walters, which was episode 1147, and Susan Long, which is 1141. But before we get anywhere near that, I want to tell you guys that he did do some Rumble exclusive episodes about the SSP. So you're going to want to pop over there and watch those. We're going to try and keep this one YouTube safe. So sorry, guys. But if it gets edited, you know where to find the real stuff. It's on Rumble. But joining me today again is my lovely radio co-host from the Mad Chatter Show, is Maya from SOS QHT.
What's up, y'all?
And I am super honored to have with us just an absolute godsend in the field of SSP, because the things I pick up just off of his Facebook page alone that triggers things and gets me thinking is a new friend of mine, Brian Sang, from the Full Disclosure Now movement. Brian, if you want to introduce yourself and give everybody a quick intro into what you're involved with right now, that'd be the best way to start this off.
Yeah, absolutely. And so thank you so much, Don and Maya, for having me today. You mentioned three of my favorite people, Susan, Rob, and Audrey. And in fact, all three are going to be at the conference that I'm executive producing for. The Full Disclosure Now conference this July 15th to 18th in Florida at the Serrata Beach Resort, St. Pete Beach. And we still have to add him to the website, but Rob is going to be part of, or the head of our live stream crew, okay, for being on the at the conference for in between the presentations. And then he'll be there to interview people. And then we're also going to have Audrey is going to be on the main stage, and Susan is she'll be on the second stage and also in the healers and readers gallery, just like Audrey. Now, for me, I was kind of introduced to the movement, and we'll keep this YouTube friendly. This interview is for entertainment purposes only, everybody. Okay, right. When the scamdemic kicked in back in 2020, I was warning everybody I could, including my family especially, but on Facebook, don't. That's thank you. So Fakebook canceled my account for spreading misinformation when I tried to warn people off of this stuff, because I have a biochemistry degree and a lot of medical advocacy experience, 8 years, 5 of that full time as a full-time volunteer organizer. And that's where I got a lot of my organizing experience that I'm now applying to this full disclosure now movement. But needless to say, when Fakebook canceled my account that went back to like 2003 or one or whatever, and had all my high school girlfriends on it, and and friends in college and on my whole life, and 3,000 plus people or whatever, 2,000 plus people, I kind of was depressed for a while. And after a while, I was like, no, I want to get back. And so when I restarted a Fakebook account, it's a dumpster fire of a platform with censorship. I got into two communities: the sword community. So you'll see I'm a sword collector and a gun collector, among other things. And then also the secret space program, UFO, ET experiencer, psychic healer, shaman community. And I befriended, among other people, Sean Bond of the Psionic League. He does great work, by the way. I've done a consult with him. And he introduced me to other people in the community, and I co-organized the Montauk Adventure Tour last summer, because that was the 80th anniversary of the Philadelphia experiment, which has a lot of ties to Camp Hero and Montauk on Long Island, New York, where many people are familiar with the show Stranger Things and the Montauk Project, da-da-da. And so off of that, I was there live in person using my organizing experience and my own personal funds and resources to help bring this wonderful crew of people together who had survived the Montauk project and a lot of the time travel effery that they were put through as children back in the day. And off of that, that definitely put me on the scene, if you will. And this is my advice to people, I intentionally, as an organizer, knew not to come to this scene as a quote unquote fanboy, right? I'm not a gawker, I'm not an attendee. I'm here to get people's testimonies out. I'm here to lend organizing. Here to lend my own personal resources and time and reputation, because in our analysis, the reason why we call it, why we see the movement, I'll get to what it is, why it's so important, is because we're never going to have a Star Trek future that we should have had yesterday if we're still arguing with each other if ETs exist, or intelligent ETs exist, or intelligent ETs exist and they've been here, or they're here now and they've been here for thousands of years, and they've been cutting deals with people in our government, rogue elements who have taken over and formed these, deep state, derp state, Illuminati wannabe, diddlers. And so as that comes out, that's why we call it the full disclosure now movement. And if you let me share my screen, I'll pull up the website here for
see if I can figure it out.
Yeah, I'll just keep blabbing while you try to do the technical.
If you can request, do you request and share, or I'm not sure how to do this yet.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing. So you might need to hit a button that says allow screen share. But in the meanwhile, I'll just keep going. No worries. Almost like here. Okay. So the reason why we call it the full disclosure now movement is because the disclosure part everybody's familiar with. That's the Buck Rogers Star Wars stuff, spaceships and ETs and laser beams. And that's great. I'm all for that. Don't get me wrong. But the full part is what's so tied to it that you can't separate it. But the gatekeepers and the disinformation people, that's all they're going to do, is they don't want to talk about SRA where little people are being abused by those in power who are tied with or are the royal family or politicians on islands somewhere, as the song goes, and in Hollywood. And these are all real things, people. I think it's becoming more and more obvious with this Puff Daddy stuff coming out. And
Yeah.
on top of the Weinstein stuff, on top of the Epstein stuff, on top of the Jimmy Savile and royal family and Sir Ted Heath, and I could go on, and Sir Anthony Kidman, and of course this show's for entertainment purposes, but if anyone wants to sue me, come at me, folks, because there's something called discovery. And if anyone, and I'm not a lawyer, I only play one on YouTube. My understanding is discovery means that it's called I show you yours and you show me or I show you mine and you show me yours, where you have to open up and I have to open up all of our records and books, and they get to allow all the forensic people to come and dig through all your records and go through all your properties and stuff. And they probably don't want that.
No. Brian, I'm going to make you host because I'm doing this over my phone and I can't seem to get it into the setting to share screen.
Okay.
There.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Okay, I can now share my screen. So do you see yes, you should be seeing this. Okay, excellent. Okay. So this is a Full Disclosure Now conference, this July 15th to 18th at the Serrata Beach Resort in Florida. And basically we're paired up with the Day of Being Beach event festival, which is thrown by Zach Fisher and his wife Sue Fisher, and Dylan Lewis Monroe and other people. Dylan Lewis Monroe, the Deep State Mapping Project, down at Indian Shores, Florida, very close to St. Pete Beach, only 23-minute drive from where our own event is. So they're our sister event. They did this last year on a Saturday. They had 300 people show up. These are star seeds, light workers, experiencers. They're getting together, and it was so great that this year, not only they're doing it on Saturday and Sunday, they're having like a cookout and a drum circle, bring your own potluck, and it's going to be bigger and better. That's going to be that Saturday and Sunday, July 13th and 14th. But then we're going to go into our event. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, where we're going to have among the presenters some of the folks we mentioned at the beginning of the show. Who do we say? It was Susan Long. We still have to add her photo up here. She's going to be in the Healers, Readers, and Psychics Gallery. And then who were the other two we mentioned?
Rob Khalil and
yes.
Aubrey Walters.
Yes. Audrey Walters is right here. She's I guess I'll out her. She's intergalactic royalty. So many of us are star seeds, but you'll find out she really is. She's got some claims there, and I would support her. If anyone out there is familiar with the work of Kim Gauguin on United Network News, she's reporting about the old Earth and new Earth Alpha and Omega systems. Audrey has a lot more to speak to that, to what Kim has been reporting on. And then Rob of Typical Skeptic Podcast, I've got a hoodie as well, but instead of green, it's in blue there, Don.
Yeah.
He's going, I have to add him to the website as well, but he's going to be leading our live stream team for the event. So yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so what I'm basically doing is off of the Montauk Adventure Tour last year and making a splash in the community and wanting to take my organizing skills that I did with doctors in particular and other medical professionals in California and nationwide for 8 years, 5 of them full time. And I mean full time, like 7 days a week in a lot of cases. Doing the Lord's work, if you will, my part to do the Lord's work. I've now worked with others, so many have become really great close friends like Drago Reed, to pull together, and Arkeem, and Matthew, and just all these people are wonderful. Um, to pull together uh, folks who have testimonies of being in these programs, who have not only the fun, happy, positive ET stuff to report on, like Barry and Nancy here, but also have the MK Ultra Montauk Project child abuse stuff like Arkeem does. And Daryl, he went through some abuse, but not as a child. He was recruited into one of the secret space programs through the U.S. Navy as an adult. So he had a slightly different pathway. Penny, she was recruited as a child, and boy, she's had multiple, what you call 20 and backs. And they have, I understand, 40 and 60 in backs, and she's been through them. And then, and Tony Rodriguez has been through at least the 120 and back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got others who have been reporting on this, like Miles Johnston of the Basis Project and Carrie Cassidy of Project Camelot for decades now. Miles is the one who broke the testimony of Max Spears and James Casbolt. And then we've got, Laura Eisenhower, related to former President Eisenhower, of course, who did the outgoing, beware the military industrial congressional or complex, right? He left out the congressional ET part of that. He probably didn't want to get shot. And then we've got experiencers like Misha Johnson. She's organizing a lot of support groups to help people heal and recover their memories. And then now we've got the remote viewers in the civilian sector who are using the CIA techniques and better, right? Like the Stargate project. Yeme Janae is with the Farsight Institute, and they do amazing work under Dr. Courtney Brown. And then there's Jessica Jones, a cryptid huntress, also another great close personal friend who is on the Montauk Adventure Tour with with Arkeem and I, and others. And Alondra Markman was there as well. In this one.
That's actually really cool. You just pulled up like a who's of the next 3 months of the Mad Chatter guest list as well. Like most of our guests are on that panel, and you have some phenomenal names on top of that. Like you just gave me the next 3 months ideas of people that I should probably contact for the Mad Chatter show, because that's what Maya and I do on the other end. But yeah, that looks absolutely phenomenal. I don't know if we can get there this year, but next year it's definitely going to be a certainty, because with the gracious offer you had put forward, and like this guy is going the whole 9 yards for this event. Like the first thing he offered to do was help me on a discount and get me somewhere to set up and stay with my partner. And it's like, nobody does that anymore. Like you truly care about this cause. And that's why I'm just so flattered to have you on the show. Like,
yeah, thank you, Don. And I'm gonna, without naming names, I'm gonna call some people out here. Part of, and it's not just the only reason why I'm going all out, at least compared to certain other conference organizers, is because I know of at least one conference organizer out there, and this I've got this confirmed by multiple people now, so I'll say it. I've heard that this guy, and I didn't know who he was at the time when I took his friendship on Fakebook. Initially, when I found out, I was like, oh my God, that's the guy. I unfriended him. Although I still want to have a word with him and can't wait to meet him in person, because I'm sure I will run into him at one of these conferences soon. And not only does he not pay a lot of his presenters, a lot of them, he actually makes them pay him to be on his stage at his conferences. And then he still goes around behind the scenes complaining to people like my good friend Drago here that he never makes any money. It's like, how do you throw conferences with like all these presenters, not pay any of them, have some of them pay you, have all these ticket sales, apparently, and then you're not making any money. What the? And
Yeah,
so that's the old 3D world way of doing business, and that's a big nope to the nopity nope. The
yeah,
4D way of looking at it is like, now let's have more empathy and work together. And then the 5D is like, man, we're rocking it. We're bringing like utopia, or not utopia, more like heaven's kingdom here now on earth. Okay. Let's just
yeah,
talk in speak in levels, if you will. And that's a very 3D way of looking at it. 4D way is like kind of where I guess I'm pretty much my butt is I'm trying to be parked right now to achieve 5D, as we all should. I think we're all naturally drawn to it if we're listening to this show for
yeah,
sure. Um, and that's to where this isn't like dog eat dog. Like, the more famous you are, the less famous I am. So I got to kind of undermine you in a little, here and there behind your back. And the more money you make, well, that's the less money I make. And the more books you sell, that's the less books I sell. That's a very poverty conscious, scarcity mindset, ego driven, not having any idea of mission and movement. I'm a movement guy. Okay. The
yeah,
people who train me are movement people. And,
yeah.
so movement people understand it's about the movement. Were you about to say something, Don?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on that. Like, Maya was partially responsible. You guys know I filled you into about the backstory about the nightmares and Maya putting me under hypnosis and me figuring out
Huh.
that I was in some militant branch of a future space program. But when I was first figuring this out and reaching out to people, the one person's response was, "Can you fill 6 or 30 minutes on my podcast?" Like, absolutely no empathy.
What did they want you to do?
Was like, before they would even talk to me about it, was, "Can you fill 30 minutes on my podcast?"
Oh, just fill 30 minutes. Like you're a
Yeah,
filler.
like, "Can you talk about it for 30 minutes?" Like, didn't want to help me with anything that was going on with this sudden insanity. Like, this is one of the old school people in this community, and they just kind of went, "Yeah, you got 30 minutes to talk about it, and like, can we sell it?"
Are they
Like, and I'm
male and do
like,
they have blonde hair? Okay. So, this is what, if I'm going to if this is who I think it is.
Wait, can I just say though,
Yeah.
Dawn, when you found me at a point where like I'm divinely guided, I'm only here to do God's work as well. And when Rob messaged me and was like, I got someone who wants to go under hypnosis, he caught me at such a crossroads because I had just found my soul sister who happened to be a freaking nightmare. And so I was like, I'm done with this. I'm done with helping people. Don't fucking ask me for nothing. I was so pissed. And then when Rob asked me, my heart just like cracked open, like, what are you gonna do? And like all this goose came out, and I'm like, I gotta help this guy. I was like, let me see. And then when I did, he seemed like such a genuine guy. He seemed really nice. He just had this lovable spirit. I was like, okay, let me see what he's got. And unbelievable, his awakening process has just been, that's why I've been working with him as well, helping him like in these sessions and stuff, helping like whatever, I'm going to be teaching him a lot of stuff too. As soon as we get some time, I am here to teach as well. I'm not, so yeah, I feel you. I just had to toss that in there because
yeah,
I was like, if I wasn't divinely guided, I would have just been like, nope, not doing it, being selfish. But I knew he needed assistance. If you're coming to me, you must really need some help, you
Like,
know?
damn, girl, your shit is fucked up. No,
No, it's on a whole nother level, is what it is. And people might not be ready for that much awakening. It's like
no.
he says, he's having visions and all kinds of stuff. It doesn't even know.
Welcome to the
He's
community. Welcome to the community.
yeah,
Um, that healing work that you're hitting on right there is a big part of it, and there's a process to that. And it's much better to go through that process and the work that you're doing step by step, Maya, with Don, as opposed to, oh, hey, you're having some recall, record, let's go, you know.
right.
And so that I term that to clear up confusion in the community. That person has a legit testimony from before, for the most part, of what they've been through, although they have left out, in my opinion and in others, the skeletons in their own testimony that they may have perpetrated. And hey, who doesn't have altars? So, but and that's where I love people like Arkeem and Penny, where they don't sugarcoat it. They're like, their testimony is they were SRA abused and they were made to SRA abuse other people, and they don't sugarcoat that, and it's hard to say that in front of thousands and thousands of people and on a podcast that, is, hey man, once it's on the internet, it's not going to get
I missed that
erased.
part. I missed that part. They had
man, Arkeem's testimony is,
I'm gonna have to go back and watch his videos. I don't remember any of that.
They'll have you in tears. Yeah.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Because when I watched Arkeem's is when I contacted Rob while I was still crying over watching Arkeem's video on Rob's show, because it made so much sense. I was literally having visions flashing through my head of the shit I went through, like not the child stuff, but the horrific imagery of like, I'm standing over this humanoid reptilian, but I'm blowing his fucking brains out and watching this blue purple goo pop out of his head because I'm in the future and this doesn't matter. But then I wake up and I'm back here. And you're just like, what the hell just happened? Somebody please explain this to me.
I was dreaming. It sounds like you were a time soldier. You were on a mission, whether positive or negative. You killed a reptilian, and if reptilians have such psychic power, that the ability that you had to be in the same room of one, if it was an alpha or a Draco type reptilian or a warrior class reptilian, much less pull the trigger, that would put you in a quote unquote super soldier category. Probably means you might have some reptilian genetics yourself. And then it means, right. And then it means that, for all you know, that reptilian as a parting FU left a psychic impression. And then, so if you were going to have recall of anything, that would be one of them.
We actually unlocked that in one of my sessions. I was talking to my mother. This is going to sound weird, but you'd have to go watch the whole thing. I was talking to my mother in the future while we were both on the moon. And I asked her about being injected while I was still in utero in through the amniotic sac with reptilian DNA. And she said, because she had my sister miscarried and they wanted this one to survive, that was me, they injected this human avatar with reptilian DNA to make sure it made it. And I was actually born with a non-functioning tail.
Right. Okay.
That is because people who are born, the people who have reptilian DNA, it's kind of like a magical superpower. It helps you. It keeps you. It's what kept him alive. I did a session with a girl who her brain blew up in her head, and the doctors are like, how are you even alive? And in her session, they said, because she is reptilian. She's BRNH. She's a Black girl with reptilian blood. So it saved her life. It's not so bad. We got to stop hating the reptilians.
Well, we all have that reptilian part of our brain.
Thank you.
I'm
not the only one that says it.
The only part that sucks for me is I am so consciously aware, and I'm not tooting my own horn, is like there is an understanding that I have that I am just the person operating this human avatar. Like if you go by the Hindu theory of the 5 sheets, what it breaks down to is you're literally just the voice in your head asking the question. So I know there's millions of other parts of my consciousness throughout the entire universe, right? Those are the things that you can also connect with when you go into different frames of mind. When you can actually let go of your ego and get out of your body, you can go rejoin with the rest of your energy that's spread out throughout the rest of the universe.
Right.
So those are also some of the overlays you get.
Yeah.
I really think the ego is the reptilian part of the brain, because if you think about it, the ego keeps you grounded here. The reptilian keeps you grounded, keeps you here. That part of the brain, they downgraded us to have us, have that part of our brain. So I'm thinking if we let the ego behind, wouldn't that be, I'm telling you, I feel like it's the reptilian, the voice in your head. That comes from that reptilian DNA. I would love to go deeper into this, Don, in one of our sessions, by the way. I'd like to know more about this.
What were you going to say, Brian?
Well, looking at it from levels, because you're speaking to, the reptilians and the ego I. When we look at our chakra system, right? We got like the 7 levels starting at like, like the root, like at our at our butt, basically, up to our core, I think it is. Those are kind of like, that's like our survival route. And I believe in terms of like densities, like first density being like rock and mineral, second density plant and animal, third density being like, monkey humans, like the way we are now. Fourth density, we're like psychic humans and we've got more empathy and in touch with each other. Fifth density, now we're like group vibing telepathically as a group consciousness and into our Star Trek future, if you will. Sixth density is now our group consciousness is able to vibe with other group consciousnesses. Seventh density is where transcending time and space and other dimensions and all that, while group vibing consciousnesses and all that, right? This is as a way of looking at it. I look at, and I, in my research readings, internet web crawling, it's the reptilians apparently are more stuck at first and second and third density or more second and third density consciousness, right? Plant and animal into monkey human, but not an elevated evolved soul matrix that's going to evolve. And so this is what sets up a lot of this battle here on Earth, where these reptilians are trying to enslave us humans and kind of jump onto us, because we're the unicorns that have soul matrices that will allow us to transcend and elevate. Then with you, Don, here they are injecting you where after your sister didn't make it. Sorry to hear that. And your mother, it sounds like you're in a hybrid super soldier breeding program. They're giving you reptilian DNA so that you can handle the rigors of what they're going to put you through, which I would imagine would not have been fun. Okay. Yeah. And then maybe like 10 or 20 years ago, you started to have weird recalls or something that kind of started to bleed through. And then now in more recent years, they become way stronger. And then you get help from, people doing great work like Maya, QHHT stuff, to unlock your memories.
Yeah.
Well,
Just
not
one.
only
My my oldest sister did make it, and then there was a miscarriage, and then me. But it's actually interesting because you can see it on screen. You guys are just in time for the consequence of being who I am. Is my yearly physical trauma. It's something that happens to me every year, and even though I don't have a 9-to-5 3D job, and there is no possible way I could get hurt, I still got hurt at the same time of year. It goes back to about a month after my birth. Every year I get physically injured, and it's happened, brought into existence on this dimension. I could literally write a 46-page book on every injury from every year.
It sounds like a ritual abuse thing.
Yes, this time was so extreme because I'm not in the general public or in a circumstance. They had my dog turn on my puppy, and I got in between it and I got bit. Right? And it's about a month after my birthday.
Okay, so it's like a targeted individual thing. So what is it, a specific day, every day you get hurt the same day? Or is it the same time day period?
Same time frame, about a week or two within the same time every year. Last year I got a jar of salsa thrown at my head by a homeless man in downtown Calgary, and he separated the joint of my one finger, and it was this time of year.
Is it like this time of year?
Yeah.
I mean, it's March 30th, so I mean that's like 3/22 is a holiday for the Skull and Bones people because they're referencing Genesis.
What?
Chapter 3, verse 22 is 3/22. That's why the Skull and Bones symbol, they've got like the Jolly Rogers, like the skull with the crossbones, and then it says 3/22 under it. It's a satanic reference to a Bible passage from Book of Genesis. And
I wonder what the passage is.
Well, I mean, that would be one supposition, but if we're looking, I'm thinking like satanic holidays to these people. That would be that's the closest one I could think of, but who knows?
I wanted to say something to what you were talking about, the reptilians and stuff. And one of the things that I have discovered is I liberate the reptilians. I work with them, and I
Oh,
actually liberate the draconians and the grays.
so okay,
I
I got questions for you after this too. Then I got questions for you,
Yeah,
Maya.
yeah. And so the reptilians are three-dimensional like us. And they can go up to 4. I don't know if they go up to 5, unless they're positive polarized, because we're going up to the 6th dimension and above, because we've already been at the 5th dimension, so we're going actually to the 6th dimension. But I'm a little unsure about how many are there. They're completely gone by then. But basically, when you dream, if you have dreams, that's the 2nd dimension, they said. So like this little kid, I did a session for this kid one time, and he said, I want to know why Superman was in my dream. And I did a session, his higher self said, who was Pleiadian, said, well, he wanted to experience your world, and that's how they slip in. They slip into your dream, and that's as close as they can get to experiencing life here. And so it was like really crazy. But the reptilians, they're very interesting. I have a draconian friend now, Tara, so that's really interesting too. But yeah, I the chakras, they're in all your chakras, actually, in your hands and your feet. When I liberate them, I find them, and millions of them, and they're connected to ships and planets, and it's pretty wild. And Don's an archangel, by the way, so just throwing that out there. He's
Yeah.
connected to Archangel Gabriel.
No, you're a messenger.
Oh,
Yeah,
he has freaky moments too, don't you, Don?
yeah, I could actually, if she's in earshot, I get my partner to explain something. The other day, we were having a smoking session, and I have times where I can channel. There are nothing I've done intentionally. There are nothing I've taught myself to do. But we've also discovered over the last 6 months that my higher self is a fractal of Gabriel.
Mhm.
He decided to pop in the other day when my partner and I were having a real life conversation about, the loss of loved ones and whatnot. And she's like, I just wish sometimes I could talk to my mom. And I started to get this overlay of her mom passing. And then I watched her energy, like, basically confetti out through the universe. I was like, the reason your mom's not right over your shoulder and you can't hear her directly is because she spread herself and her energy into thousands of different pieces and dissipated to everybody she ever wanted to help. Like, and the only way you could ever talk to her. And then Gabriel popped in. Gabriel, when he speaks through me, has a stutter and leaves me with such a euphoric feeling that it brings me to tears. So there I am listening to my fiance say hi, Gabriel, and he giggles, smiles, says hi back, and dissipates.
He's so funny. He's
Like,
funny.
it's very strange. I'm glad. I love all of this SSP stuff, but I'm glad I didn't stop there. And I almost did, because the traumatic memories that were coming back, I almost got stuck there. But then I had a moment where I was like, wait a minute, if this exists, then that exists. Then angels exist, then dragons exist, then leprechauns exist, then this exists.
Let me
Because,
grab something for you real quick.
yeah,
Mind blower.
yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, Archangel Gabriel. Yeah, man. Ugh.
Like, I actually asked Spin, I was like, could you give me a heads up if you're gonna do that? Because, like, she asked to talk to her mom, and he's like, okay, I'll play messenger. And, like, I was back seated, like, I was within myself, but I was behind me. I was listening to me talk as though I was under hypnosis, but I was still sitting up.
Wow, that's
As
wild.
I don't know how well you can see this, but for me, it was I've been a sci-fi fan my whole life, and kind of what I did is I'm not going to bother just holding this up, but my
Yeah.
whole life, what I did is I kind of had two different baskets, if you will. I had the science fiction, Star Wars, ETs, Star Trek side, and then I had the angels and demons and exorcisms and God versus Satan over here. And then knowing, there's God over all of it, but it was one or the other. And at the point where I realized, no, it's all of it, it's all together. And
Yeah.
there are ETs and angels and demons, and there are ETs that work with positive angels and ETs that work with the negative demons, right? And everything in between. Okay, that's when my mind was like super blown. And that was like 2019, right before the scandemic. And
Yeah.
then, yeah.
Yeah, I totally get it, because like that's where I kind of was too. And it's like I listen to people like Frank Castle, who's like a neo shaman ayahuasca guy, and like Chris Matthew, who like can tell some amazing mushroom stories. And I'm like, I'm getting this in my dreams and in my meditation. Should I do that? Because that might be a little much. Like I'm coming out, and I'm not going to see on the same level, but I'm getting enough to keep my own mind going without plant medicine beyond marijuana, because like I think
yeah.
that might fry me.
Right. Well, I mean, listen to your discernment, and who knows, maybe a couple years ago you'll have a buddy saying, "Hey, I'm going on an ayahuasca, journey to Peru, want to go with?" And hey, maybe it'll be the right time. Maybe never. I'll
Yeah.
give you an example. I mean, there's tools all around us. I've got on eBay, these are like dicyanin goggles. These are the
Okay.
goggles they talk about, like, oh, in Vietnam, they had these dicyanin coated lenses, and helicopter pilots were like starting to shoot at each other because they were seeing demons flying in midair in front of them.
No,
Yeah, if you
those
look
are
up,
the goggles. I want those.
well, these
Can I
these
still
aren't
get them?
the goggles. These are a reproduction where on eBay, apparently this guy, he says, and I'm believing him now. They basically reproduce the chemical formula for dicyanin at some lab in Germany, then coated the goggles, these lenses, and sent them to him. Or they made the dye and then sent it to him, and then he did the coating on the goggles. Either way, at first you just put them on, and it's like you don't notice anything. I didn't seem to notice anything. But my roommates, my one housemate and business associate, he's a crazy looking, he wore them he's able to see auras, and just putting them on, he's like, oh, these don't do anything. And he said, well, he said, I'm going to try them for a while, because you're not supposed to, if you wear them for too long, apparently they start to make you feel kind of wacky. And that's what they were finding in Vietnam. And my buddy who sees auras, and energy and prophetic dreams and things like that, after wearing these for a while, he's like, whoa, he's starting to get tripped out on them. So like we've got, these tools are more and more available to us. You can go onto YouTube and look up the gateway process, and put on headphones and do hemisync, and it'll strobe to your different, one beat to your right ear, one beat to your left ear. It links the hemispheres of your brain and can allow you to astral project. And I'm realizing that there's all this stuff out there. There's nothing stopping any of us from putting down the video games, or taking time off or whatever to explore.
That's something that which one was it there? One of them had alluded to that as well, is that the reason we don't have our abilities is we don't have time to think about it.
Mhm.
Because we've been forced into society, and when you actually have free time to think, instead of what is my neighbor doing to piss me off, what kind of car are they driving, what should I eat at McDonald's, what should I do today at work, if we were actually back in the positions where we were self-sustained individuals or family groups, imagine the free time, the neurological functionality that you would have to think about things like, hey, how could I move that with my mind, or how could I get Brian to understand exactly about the color purple that I want this hat to be right now, and I could send that to Brian. It's because we're so consumed with what we've been forced into, which is society, that we don't have these abilities. Nothing has really been taken away from us or locked off. We just don't have time to think about it. And this is the crazy part of my story, or up until this point, is quitting my job gave me that ability. Because you're talking about astral projection. I've figured out that I can do a breathing regimen into a guided meditation, and now I can do it with my own imagination, where I was able to astral project and have an entire episode with Rob on Typical Skeptic and show him where there was military bases and even a Space Force base up in Alaska that nobody knew about. I even went as far as to finding the website to prove it. And it's just all of these phenomenal things that if we actually had time as clairvoyant individuals to think instead of being so consumed with society, we actually would start to regain some of this.
Well, you said some three key words there. Or four, up until this point, right? Yeah, four. Up until this point, okay, we've been stuck in this 3D society illusion, the matrix, if you will, Babylonian money magic beast system, okay, which goes back, some people say 26,000 years and beyond, right? You know, it's going back to Atlantis and Lemuria, if you will. And people worshiping entities that are far, far older than that time itself. And now the Earth and our solar system, as it revolves on the outer arm of one of the 8 arms of the spiral Milky Way, as it revolves around the central sun of the Milky Way, apparently our solar system is finally entering a it's like we're turning a corner and we're coming out of a shadow and we're getting pelted with more higher cosmic energies, and that in turn is having an effect on our sun, which is linked to all other suns. Apparently there are stargates in our sun that link to every other sun and vice versa. Ian Banks wrote an amazing sci-fi novel about this, and I thought it was a cool concept at the time. Now I'm finding out apparently this is reality, called The Algebraist. And now, you know, the baddies, if you will, my understanding, if you want to know the state of the movement here on Earth, right, is that the negative reptilian Draco, Orion hive type entities, ETs, are being driven from the planet. Yes, they still have all their hybrids and soldiers and minions and puppets down here with their resources, but for main intents and purposes, the Draco reptilian ETs have been kicked off this planet. And now we're being surrounded with positive ETs with whatever galactic federation it is. Because there's like a Galactic Federation of Light, Brotherhood of Light, Confederation of Worlds, Galactic Federation of Worlds. And these are different entities. And some of these are masquerading entities trying to masquerade as the real good ones, but these are the bad guys. They do shitty, messed up stuff. And they're like, oh, well, this entity's bad. It was like, well, you know, are they? You know, so I think there's a lot of confusion there. But as the Earth and our solar system is getting hit with higher energies, how can our frequencies not but increase and go up? And the darkness is being melted away, and they're grasping at straws, and we're getting our memories back and our abilities back, and our DNA, and with that, abilities are being reactivated. And so here we are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, it just, even the amount of overlay I get now, like I was explaining to Spin, like I can be driving and then all of a sudden I'll just be walking down the hall on a ship and it's like, yeah, okay, come back here, because like I can see it about 10%, but there's still the road in front of me. And it's like sometimes I have to psychologically or physiologically block it from this existence, because it'll just bleed
you're
through.
Driving.
Yeah, like, and it's like, oh,
That's
I'm
dangerous.
walking on. Yeah, like there's two existences where my consciousness is real.
Right. You're bilocated.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like they show in the Marvel Doctor Strange Spider-Man movies when they're jumping between timelines. And then that takes us to like the Montauk Project and time soldiering. So if you're not soldiering in space with like Nachtwaffen, Darkfleet, you know, Nachtwaffen Regehr, or Solar Warden or Radiant Guardian or whatever, you know, or on Mars, they've got you time soldiering. And then usually that's running messed up time missions for the dark side, because they're trying to put us all in a negative timeline. So if anyone had any questions, why are they doing all this? That's why they want to put us on a negative Terminator, Skynet, Matrix type timeline.
Because basically keep them dumb, keep them docile, right? Like,
well, think about it this way. You got these humans where it's like they're promised they get to rule the kingdom of hell with Satan in whatever form that looks like, because they're so stupid and naive, they would actually believe the father of lies or any negative dark entity. Like, why would they care about you? and, you know, beyond how they can use you to get what they need for the rest of us, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, no, that's
Can I say something to that?
mhm.
So the funny thing about it is, you know, they say the spiritual war already went on the other side, right? And so now it's got to take time for it to happen here, and then it's going to trickle all throughout the universe. Well, the funny thing about it is, there's two sisters of mine that do the same work as I do, and they found this dragon that was bound, gagged, blindfolded, and stoned in concrete at the bottom of the Euphrates River
Mm.
early this year in January. And Mother Gaia took him out of there and gave him a bath, cleaned him up. And this was the one that the Archon Father, the fallen angel, the one fallen angel that decided to go a little bit further when it was creating, and it disconnected itself. We don't say his name anymore because he's in rehab right now, but he has been rescued and taken to far, far on the other side of the universe for healing. And the bargain was he cannot come back to Earth ever, ever, ever again. Ironically, shortly after that happened, I get word on the news and stuff that the Euphrates River is drying up. And everyone's like,
Book
I
of
don't know how that
Revelation,
happened.
biblical
I was
prophecy.
like, oh my God, you guys, you didn't fill that hole up. What happened? Like, you know, you took him out. But so that's why when I do meet these reptilians, when I meet them, that's it. That is the end of the line for them, because there's only two options now.
Right.
Either they positive polarize,
Right.
and they get to come back with their memories, and they can, you know, live another existence. They can either be reptilian
Right.
again, or they could be whatever they choose to be.
Or
Or it's off with their head. You
soul
don't
death.
you lose everything. You're done. Nice life. Goodbye. And that's it. They go back to source, and that's it. So it's really interesting
Very
now.
source
That's why
connections.
when you know, you talk about the full disclosure, but you do realize what that means. For us to really come, because we are the disclosure, if we really, because it's going to come from us, if
Mhm.
we started telling our experiences, and then you have the other side like trying to cover up and backpedal and all this bullshit. First of all, we know what it's about. You are in control. We know it's draconian law, and so they're not going to give up their power. Are you kidding me? They're going to keep pumping us with chemical foods and pump more chemtrails and take everything away from us and force us into a little hole and then bury us. You know, they don't give two shits about us. That's why we have to get mad. We
Right.
have to fight back. We have to
Mhm.
come hard. We have to do these podcasts. We have to talk. That's the only way, because people are getting too scared. They're running with their tails between their legs, and they're like, I don't want to shake the water. Well, you know what the archangels tell me? The people who sit there and be quiet and don't want to share their story and tell anybody, you're doing just as harm as the other people, because you ain't doing nothing about it. And
Yeah.
that is why you can't shut me up.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
like,
right.
you know what? It's time.
Um,
I get emotional when I
Mhm. Mhm.
in the episode, I want to say, because you kind of made me think of it there, Brian.
Mhm.
Audrey was talking about the batches of humans, and
Mm.
right off the bat in my head, it went to, okay, do those coincide with the Great Resets? Because those of us that know that there's been multiple resets, multiple pole shifts, multiple blah blah blah. Like, is that exactly what that is? Like, when she's talking batches of humans, do those
So
coincide with resets, or is that something different?
So I don't want to say what she's talking about doesn't coincide with great resets, but but what at least she and I have discussed, at least, so maybe she's talked about other stuff, but what she and I have discussed, she's in general, she's more recently speaking to human ET hybridization programs. And what she's saying is programs, the batches of people, because you're talking batches of people from those programs, they're not necessarily for great reset. What they're being used, they're the mothers in these programs, like the human moms, are being told, hey, you're going to have a hybrid baby with these gray ETs, and you're going to help regenerate the gray ET race. Okay. And what Audrey is saying is, unfortunate that there may be some cases where that might be true, but she says in the vast majority of cases, it turns out these women are being lied to. Their children are being used in these programs just like you would be probably been put into as a human child into a super soldier program. Well, now they imagine you had hybrid babies, okay, and then they're sticking them in their own upscaled version of ET super soldier programs, okay, or they could be hybridizing these kids, and maybe the kid doesn't make the cut to be a super soldier in their program. That kid gets eaten, okay,
Yes.
and and people are like, that can't be true. I don't believe that. Well, I think I don't know if Audrey raised it, but this is a question that comes up in my mind is if these ETs are so great and they're raising, your children, okay, but then they'll only let you see your child like once every 3 years, like when you're in a dream state, and then they make you forget about it and you can barely remember any of it. Like and these are your kids, and then you're never going to see them again once they get past like that stage. Then it turns out, well, why do they need you to visit your children anyway? Then, even if it's once every couple of years, it's because those ET hybrid kids, that came from you, they'll die without your parental contact at young ages. Okay, but at the
Oh,
point where they
Right.
survive and they move on, well, then they don't need you anymore, and you never get to see your kids again. Does that sound humane to you? Does that sound very New Earth to you? Don't sound so New Earth to me.
no.
Yeah, there's a few people I've done sessions with where they've had alien abductions. One of your crew cadet there, Dawn, Rachel, her and her brother saw a UFO, and she was like, "I wonder what happened." I said, "I'll tell you what happened. You got abducted, is what happened." So I did a session with her, and we went to go find out what happened. And sure enough, she had hybrid children. And I was like, well, what happened to the children? And we found out some of them were eaten, some of them were taken, some of them were destroyed. But then there were others that made it. So what we did is we called in the archangels to come in and help them. And so what we did is some of the angels were whispering in their ears, and they said in the future, there's going to be an uprising from the hybrid children, and they're going to fight back from the inside. And I'm just like wondering, what are we actually doing? What am I doing? What are we doing when we go into these sessions? And all of a sudden now Don's in the future with the SSP, but he hasn't been part of the human trafficking part. He's part of the healing process. So it's like, what are we doing now? Our intentions, what exactly is happening? You know what I mean? Like, it's so much bigger than we even can imagine.
What it shows us is just like you're saying, our actions now in the here and now determine what happens in the present, and the future and the past, because time, doesn't exist. And, anyone who's hit a higher meditative state or altered state will tell you, you hit that state where it's like, wow, time doesn't exist. We are all one. It's like there's a reason why like everyone starts babbling almost the same stuff over and over when you get to a certain altered state. Go ahead, Don.
I went a little overkill when I first woke up and found all this wonderful DMT breathing. I got so far in, I explained to myself why I wasn't physically even here.
Hmm.
I explained that I'm actually just a bunch of like vibrating molecules that aren't actually a real solid. So if somebody changed my vibration, I would cease to exist. And that's kind of a weird thing to discover when you're in meditation. You're like, what the did I just tell myself? Like, because you just disproved your own existence, but now you have to come back here and be here.
Well, you proved the holographic nature of your existence, and how you're just a projection here,
Yeah.
from
And
spirit down to physicality. Yeah. Um,
and and I think that with what Maya was saying, with me participating in the future, that's exactly what I was explaining, is that's how it goes, because I'm literally just the voice in my head. This is an avatar. And when I'm in different dimensions, it's the same thing. And then when I'm in the future, I skip into basically what I call a blank, but everybody else would still see it as me or whatever perception of me they have. Right? There's an overlay, basically like an oversoul, but it looks like skin. But you're you're in a blank, right? And then if you die, you just go back. And then sometimes I come back here, or sometimes I go back and try again.
that's right. Yeah. What is it? The Farsight Institute, they call us ISBs, something like spiritual beings, intentional spiritual beings, or something like that. We all law of one, we all come from source, we all eventually go back to source. So we all just take our own pathway. And then there was an interview. I forget what podcast or show it was on. I also want to give a shout out to Mind Unveiled. I did a podcast with Jessica the Cryptid Huntress on like the Cabbage Patch Babies. And I think we might have put some of the Mind Unveiled stuff up on the screen. I didn't give them a shout out, but there's a lot of, we have such a vibrant community. But there's one podcast where someone was talking about how like she was hypnotized, QHHT session it might have been, and she wanted to talk to like her father's like oversoul or something, even though her father was like alive still. She got to speak to a version of her father who was like a bug ET version, was like almost like a mantis bug being who was like existing at the same time that her father's still here on Earth, because there is no time and space. And it shows you how you could be here interacting with future versions of yourself or and so time doesn't exist. And then, and then that can help explain the Mandela effects and all his parallel timelines and time travel. And it gets rid of these supposed time paradoxes. Like if you go back in time and kill your grandfather or whatever, do you die, or do you just split off a whole parallel timeline? Right. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's kind of the Back to the Future 2 principle when Biff steals the time machine, right? Nothing changed in those 2 seconds that he had the car until later, but he was completely out of time the entire time he was in the 50s. I've actually had that experience in life. Everybody's heard it. I was driving the one day, I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and this is where I knew it was weird and real, was because my reaction wasn't, what's that? It's like, fuck, not again.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden I was 2 minutes down the road and right at my turn. And then for the next 2 days, I was irritable and off. I was angry at my dogs. I was angry at my partner. Just no idea. And then I went to sleep the second night, and the Arcturians told me in dream state, look, we kind of screwed up. We missed by 2 minutes. We're going to put you back now. And I'm like, do you realize what you guys just did for the last 2 days in that dimension? And you have to be specific. Like, you guys can't mess with my time. You guys can't do this. You can't do that, because like, that's what I've found being in whatever program I'm in. When you're in one, you're in a few, because like I work as a mercenary in the future. There's times where I'm on a ship. I was talking to Frank Castle, and 20 minutes later, flying away from my house, there was a very clear photo of a craft taken. And
what kind of craft? What did it look like, that craft? Was it a black triangle or was it a saucer?
It was a round lit triangle. Like the back end was rounded and the front was pointed, and it was like 22 miles northwest of me, right after Frank basically finished saying to me, how many times do you need to see the ship before you realize there's a ship? Right. They're literally all around us, and one uncloaked and got caught on camera.
I mean, was that a human ship, a reverse engineered spaceship piloted by humans?
If I were to take my honest opinion on it, I would say it was ET. I think it's Arcturian.
Okay, Arcturian.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Arcturian, that's interesting to me. On the one hand, the Arcturian, so it's Arcturians who took you, and then they apologized for messing up, because they were supposed to time slot you back in exactly, but they messed up by that 2 minutes and you noticed. And then do you know what they were doing with you when they took you for that 2 minutes of perceived time?
Yeah, it's something we'll get into off camera, but it was for electromagnetic free-flowing power.
For you, or what do you mean?
Something you could build in everybody's home.
Oh, yeah, right. They were downloading information to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. We're gonna be getting a lot more of that, and it can't be sooner rather than later. Is good.
People
this whole
look into Stirling Motors, because there's something they were taken off of the radar because they're too efficient, because you can run them on nothing, including magnets. But even if you have to run them off of a fuel, you can run them off of sourdough bread, the fermentation you get from it.
The very littlest heat gradient is all
Yeah.
you need. And if you just ride a heat gradient, the Stirling engine with its little piston setup is very
Yeah, it's
excellent.
the energy conductor. Yeah, that
Right.
was
They
part of
need to
what I
scale
got.
them up. Like they only make the little like made in China desktop ones, but like what if you took a real one, scaled it up, gave it real pistons, and then
Like,
gave it some heat and then add some magnets. And that's like that's still, for the ET's monkey level. Yeah.
yeah,
But we'll
You
take
know,
it.
I had Ask the Angels, or who was I talking to? Anunnaki, I think. I don't remember who I was talking to, but I had asked one of them in a session about technology and about like solar power. And
Mm.
they laughed like all hysterical. They're like, ha ha ha, solar power, that's elementary. And I was like, well, then what should we be using? And they said,
0 point.
magnets, magnetism,
Mm.
magnetic.
So
And I
energy.
was like, oh, and so now that you're saying this, so think about how many things are out there that they're trying to keep from happening. They don't want people, they don't want to lose their oil and their power. Are you kidding me?
So yeah.
this is what got me put in the bad kid class in grade 7 with all of the kids that smoke pot. I'm not joking. I was trying to make a self-propelled magnetic train in grade 6 for science fair because I almost won the science fair the year before. And then all of a sudden, the school supply of the magnets that I needed just suddenly disappeared out of the supply. Right.
Right.
So
Because you
the
got these
next year,
magnetic Searle generators.
yeah, the next year I was put in the worst class in grade 7 with the worst kids that already had drug problems.
Yeah.
So guess what happened to me? Because I wouldn't play.
Right. Right. Yeah, well, that's, the history of targeted individuals is you're all considered, and I don't know if I've been in any of the programs. I'm hearing conflicting things, so whatever. But I have no memories of anything. So for now for now at least it's you all. Um, the other side benefits from keeping you in a beat down condition as much as they can. They don't want you wealthy and healthy and happy with all the free time in the world, spreading the good word. They do not want that. They want you beaten down and broken and suicidal and alcoholic and no reputation at all to speak of so that they can, oh, look at this guy. Ha ha. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, like that's actually where I wanted to go with this is Susan mentioned the targeting in the SSP community because most of them are high IQ and high emotional quotients as well, right? We're very advanced humans, and Maya and I have to look into this, or I have to rewatch a session. I was taken to a thinking symposium when I was in grade 5 after I almost won the science fair. And I was a solid C student, so it's not like I was the smart kid. My sister has been an A student. She is brilliant. Like there's something going on with our genetics. She skipped 86 days in high school and still held an A average.
Are you guys RH negative?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, okay, good. Yeah, so you got some Nephilim in you, and that's probably why it elevates your IQ. It comes with some drawbacks too, but it's got having higher IQ is nice.
Yeah.
You know, a
But
lot
no,
of people don't know.
I literally remember going on the bus, getting to the thinking symposium, and then getting back on the bus.
Oh, right. You had the blackout.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, what just happened to me over 8 hours? And it's 15
Wait,
minutes from the military base.
we didn't ask your grandmother that. Did we speak to your grandmother? Did you have a grandmother encounter?
We talked to my great grandmother, but it wasn't about that. No.
All right, we're gonna have to go back to that because I feel like we touched on that, but I could be wrong. There's a lot of people I've encountered that are in this SSP stuff. It's kind of crazy.
Sorry, Brian, I kind of went squirrely there for a second. But yeah, like you, especially being as close as you are with as many people, like, do you see a lot of the SSP community targeted as well?
Oh
like
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, they're targeted to the point where they're still being taken on 20 and backs or missions at least overnight to this day, and then they're every now and then given reminders that they were on a mission, either because they reminded themselves or because they'll come back with like a jacked up shoulder because they resisted being taken the other night, and so yeah, these are the direct testimonies I'm getting from my friends, or like I remember being on the Montauk Adventure Tour, and Arkeem and Chastity Campbell, they were there speaking to each other, and Arkeem apologized to Chastity because he had a flashback memory that he wanted to share with her. And the memory was she was like 8 and she was like 6, and they were like naked in these like cages in like Montauk in under like battery 218 or whatever. And she was like one of the more recently abducted kids, and she's like saying how her parents are going to come find him, and he'd already been there for a couple of years, and he's like all salty, like fuck that, they're never going to find you, you're just stuck here like the rest of us, bitch, like you're never. And he's like, and she's crying, and he remembered that, and he felt bad about that, and he said, do you remember that, Chastity? And she said, I did remember that, and it's okay. They had a moment. I was like, holy shit, like that's real,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just insane. Like the overlays where you can start to connect with people. There was somebody else, and I keep forgetting her name, and I apologize, but she just wrote a book. She was on Rob's show about a month ago, and her awakening. She was with Angie Dollar on one episode of Rob's, and anyways, her awakening literally happened a month before, but she got a whole lot more clarity about what was going on in her SSP. I want to say autumn or something, but anyway, she literally just released a book with the help of Angie Dollar, and like had her awakening at the exact same time as me, and it's the exact same story. And it's like, holy shit! Like this is what blows my mind with all of this stuff is like there's parallels. Like, okay, I joke about the physical resemblance of me and Tony Rodriguez, and then the girl came to the forefront where like she had the same awakening at the same time. Like all we did was live in different places in different bodies, but it was the same experience. And it's like, oh my God, this is happening all over the world to all types of consciousness.
Well,
Right.
it was Tony Rodriguez's testimony on Journey to Truth with Tyler and Aaron that really kind of blew my mind and made me reach out to Sean Bond in the first place and get involved with the community. And it's, in my organizing experience, I did a lot of work in medical advocacy fighting, supposed nonprofit hospital corporations and the backroom deals with these, politicians, to get their nonprofit tax breaks while they rip off the people and get away with it. And in doing that kind of research and transferring that experience over to this and hearing the testimonies of so many people and seeing the way everything overlaps, that's what makes it so credible. Okay. If people's testimonies were so scattered that no one made sense and they all contradicted each other, oh no, the Alpha Draconians, they're great. They're our friends. They're like you don't see many. How many testimonies like that does anyone ever see? Like the rogue factions, like maybe a rogue faction of the Alphas, Draconians, like they want to help, great. And then I'm sure Maya in her work with reptilians, I'm hearing it might be Elena Denon. I don't agree with everything she's reporting on, but I heard she reported on like where these reptilians they're choosing the light, they're learning how to meditate, they're learning how to do the chakra work, and then all of a sudden they like the chakra systems like light up and then they turn into balls of light and they disappear. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's a good thing, but it's like, fuck, they're when our soldiers for light. Like what happens
Yes.
when troops get trained up and they all go Obi-Wan on you?
So can I tell you, I think it was Rob or oh my God, there's so many of them. Anyways, I don't know, but there was a session I did with somebody. We found some reptilians or draconians, and we connected to the commander of their ship, and they were ready to surrender. They're like, okay, we're ready to go, but they were like, we're a little too low. Let us take our ship up higher, because when we go, the ship will crash, come falling down, and it'll cause more havoc. So let's just go dock the ship somewhere, because that's what happens. In one of my sessions, there was a ship that was like, yeah, we found these people floating in space, they were stranded, and we brought them on our ship, and now they've kind of taken over. We know that they've taken over, but they're letting us stay here and they're letting us live, but we know they're trying to be in charge, and it was reptilians. And so I was like, well, I was able to talk to them and ask them to leave, so we were able to cross them over. And so afterwards I asked the guy, well, what does that look like? And he was like, Yeah, we got a big mess to clean up. And I was just thinking
What kind of
bodies
mess?
everywhere
Bodies?
because they died. That's what happens. They leave. Their soul comes out. They turn to light. They leave, but their flesh, their bodies get left behind wherever they are.
Okay.
It doesn't like
Their-
materialize
So
and
their
vanish.
physical body does stay behind, even though their
Yes.
soul elevates and comes out and transmutes.
Yes, and I am rescuing millions and millions, and there's other practitioners that are also, let me just turn it down, that are also rescuing millions and millions. So you will be seeing more and more. And when I encountered one of the reptilians, I was like, "Do you know about me?" Because I put the word out. I wanted to see how this works.
Sure.
Like if
Sure.
I
Yeah.
set my intention, if they see me, it's going to be the festival. Like you better pack your bags and let's go. And so when I see them, they were like, "Oh, we know who you are. We've watched your videos. We've been waiting for you." And I'm like, "Oh, snap."
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful process to see something that we feared, that we were like, "Oh my God, reptilians." And now I'm able to deal with them on such a level that it's like they go willingly. They're like, "Please save us, help us." Like they're being human trafficked all over the universe, just like we are. Here is happening all over the universe. This is not just an earthly problem. That's why they're super soldiers. That's why Dawn has to go out there and kick ass and come back and be put back together in pieces after a 20-minute nap. Because we have to go do this.
The Greys, they don't like it at all. There are people like from these UFO reports where they talk about people coming back and they've got like girls' clothing on, but they're a boy, or their clothing's on backwards and it's mismatched and this and this and that. And people are like, ha ha ha, stupid Greys. They just must be mindless drones, mindlessly screwing up. Actually, recent reports are, it turns out, no, these are Greys who are intentionally sabotaging as an F this. We're tired of being the bitches being made to abduct these stupid monkey humans to, jab them and take their ovaries and jerk them off or whatever so that we can get our own freedom as the gray ET races. But they don't like it either.
That's what Audrey alluded to as well, is like the Greys were so fed up with this shit they were trying to get kicked off of the planet.
Wow. Well, I know that it was in Atlantis when they were doing the experimenting. That's when everything kind of got a little funky. And that's when like the reptilians were able to get in. Like there was a rip that happened and they just slipped in and they started taking over the high level people. It was the priestess, it was the royalty, and they were able to get in through jealousy and greed. And once the reptilians get in, they're in. They're shapeshifters. So these people had no idea and they were doomed. And
Right.
so like when I go back into these regressions and you hear what's happening back then, yo, it's frightful. It is. I mean, Atlantis was a spaceship, they said, and it didn't go up. It went under and into the water, and it like went into a different dimension. But it was the Galactic Federation headquarters. But let me tell you this also: the Galactic Federation, they followed me and they watched me because there's two sides in everything. And so just like the Greys, there's positive and negative, just like the reptilians and everything like that. But it's kind of interesting. Oh my God, they just mind wiped me. But where was I going with that? They mind wiped me. They were like,
You're talking about the Galactic Federation. They're watching you and they've
yes,
been waiting for you.
they're like, don't say that. So there's a fraction of the Galactic Federation that is working with the Greys that believe they should be able to procreate, and so they're helping them. And then
Right.
there's the other part that doesn't believe that they should do it. So there's two sides of the Galactic Federation. I found this on one of my sessions, and they spy on me apparently. So
Yeah, we're the greatest show in the universe right now.
yeah,
mean,
whatever.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised to learn that because on the one hand, the Greys, my understanding is they do have to hybridize if they're ever going to regain their vigorousness and ability to procreate naturally. But then on the other hand, I understand there's certain ET races where they're like certain, like, I guess I don't know if they're from Arcturus, those type races where like they're blue skinned, they live for like thousands and thousands of years naturally. The idea of procreating with less evolved races is like a bad thing because now you're introducing into their gene pool, like now we'd only live for hundreds of years instead of thousands of years because we diluted our gene pool. I kind of get that thinking too. Whatever, I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I
So
don't know. about that.
Well, yeah, that was something else too, is like our life cycles have been muted drastically. And she was talking about that as well, like how we used to live 500 and 700 years. Like I couldn't imagine the mindset it would be like to know that I'm approaching 50 and that's a tenth of my life, not half, right? Like say long shot, I make 100, right? That's awesome for this version of a human, but that should be like 100 should be a fifth of your life.
Yeah.
Right? You shouldn't be psychological. And it's something, again, that we've been taught to think, right? I seriously have questions as to how much of this is just psychological, that we allow ourselves to die because that's what we're told. Oh, you're 80, you're old now.
Well, I mean, there's a psychological part, but the reality is that we've been under this satanic negative rule for so long now. It's a wonder we make it to 80, and a lot of people aren't these days. With everything that's in our food, our medicine, our water, our air, blah, 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 what they're zapping us with on a constant basis, it's a wonder that we last as long as we do. So I can grasp or grok the concept of living for 500 years when you think, okay, imagine you take away all the poison, give us all the healthy stuff, give us medical technology. Now we're spiritually evolved. We're loving each other. We're getting, we're not so cut off by source with all these different layers of matrix lie crap. Then yeah, sure, I could see that. Because honestly, 80 years to be on this earth, I know the 70 something that my dad had wasn't long enough. He was with my mom for 50 years. He had another 25 years together, in my opinion, at least 20, if not for the jabs.
Yeah. This is years ago, but another thing that was just allowed to be done was I lost my stepdad. I was 18 years old. He was 48 of a mesotheliomic heart attack. He was a furnace installer by trade, installed gas lines, ductwork, and things like that. He caught pneumonia from installing a ventilation system at a hospital and never quit.
Oh, God.
So
Man, what is in the ventilation system filtration crap of a hospital?
Yeah, 48 years old. This was the Wild West of the sheet metal installation days. Like you didn't wear a respirator and shit. You rolled around in vermiculite. Nobody cared, right? It was just what you did to get that 9 to 5 paycheck. Well, he didn't.
HVAC pays. Yeah, heating, ventilation, air conditioning pays well.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah,
there was 48.
There was two aspects that I've always wanted to touch on about my dad's death, and one of them was having to work himself to death just to get by, and the second part that killed him is the word mortgage. And if you think about that, that comes from the words mort and gauge. That is your death gauge, people. You sign that piece of paper, you're a ticking clock, and you're going to kill yourself for it, because he didn't make 50, folks.
Right. That's right.
Sorry.
Read Rich Dad, Poor. Yeah, exactly. Read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, everybody. Get yourself a financial education to free yourself from this. And then now, in this new earth that we're approaching, as these old systems are dying, we're being given the opportunity to take what we love and our natural skills and talents, and then begin to apply them in pathways where we can make a difference on this earth for the positive and make a living at it. And that seems to be happening more and more now.
Yeah. And that's much like what Audrey does and what Maya does, is like they're conduits, they're spiritual connections for people like me who just pop awake at like 45 years old and like, shit, what am I missing? And there has to be these necessary people like Maya and like Audrey that can help explain it. Like Audrey has her space school videos. Maya has affirmations and videos of him.
Yeah.
I got space school too.
Yeah.
That's right. For the reptilians, you got Lizard
No,
Squad.
we got Cosmic Crusaders, y'all.
Oh, okay. I have to learn more about
we
that.
are the real Star Trek. Don hasn't even told you, but we are the real Star Trek.
Rob's actually in on it too. There's a group of us that go under hypnosis that actually have a ship and have been on several galactic adventures, one of which was actually kind of interesting. a group of 4 or 5 of us went under hypnosis, and Rob dipped out on us. But he had actually fully intended on going. His human felt like crap, so he ended up falling asleep with his step tracker on. His step tracker traveled at 5,000 miles an hour, something like about 50 million miles at so many hundreds of thousands of steps per minute. And we all saw him on the ship that night. During the group hypnosis, his etheric form was there. And because his phone was biometrically attached to his etheric form when he was in the state of altered consciousness, i.e. sleep, he was actually with us.
From the beginning to the end, we started at 10 o'clock, we ended at midnight. His tracker from 10 to midnight is spiked like out of this world. It was crazy.
Yeah. So so he physically went somewhere and the tracker went with him physically, or he etherically went somewhere and the tracker was quantum entangled to him etherically, and then it recorded all that movement etherically, but here on the physical device.
Yes, it exactly. It was quantum entangled with him etherically because it was so close to his biometrics, which it was tracking. Right. So when his etheric form separated from his physical form in dream state, it
got tracked.
Yeah.
I hope he has that data recorded. That's amazing.
He does. He actually has it several times on video too, and like all of us, I don't know if you know Angel Laurie, my partner as well, and like there's multiple witnesses that he was seen during the session.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's recorded and it's on YouTube.
Right. Well, apparently a lot of us, when we go to sleep, we're going places, we're doing work. Like I'm told I'm already a new Earth ambassador. Like Arkeem has had flashback recall of me speaking with like mantis beings or giant ETs, and you're saying, well, what does Earth have to offer? And I launch into a pitch. Well, let me tell you, like what doesn't Earth have to offer? Let me, and so yeah.
I could see it because like the first time she put me under, and I know we've gone way off tangent here and it's going to be a fun episode anyway, but I saw Maya in basically what I'll call the in-between of where you learn to space travel. And she was actually teaching a class where she teaches you how to fold space-time through star connection, right? It's literally you push and pull space and time towards you to go from here to here in an instant.
Right.
And that's what she was teaching in the future in that military program that I'm involved in.
Were you utilizing Merkaba vehicles?
Yeah,
I put them in the beginning of each session. I put them in a Merkaba. Okay. Yes, we activate their Merkabas. It's all safe and protected from beginning to end. It's all high vibe.
Nice.
Yeah, he's safe. They were safe. We did do a mission one time with somebody who got a little too froggy and almost got us compromised. We went to the moon on a mission on Rob's channel live, and one of the girls went ahead without getting into her vehicle, her Merkaba, and got us almost compromised. There was the reptilian eyes on the ship, and everyone got tagged, and we had to go through and do some fixing up. Oh, it's crazy.
Did you have any people, visitors then? What they call tag-alongs, follow homes after that?
Well, because she was able to, because she is psychic and she is able, and she's part of my Galactic Soul family as well. She actually had to go through and do some cleanup. So she had to go remove tags from everybody. That's what she does actually.
Okay.
Yeah. And I did a session where I found out me and her are connected. We're Stargate keepers, grid workers. And so I was like, okay, I just wanted to make sure, and then they were like, yes, she does a lot of work and she brings information to everybody. So, yeah, so I did trust her, but I was like, I knew she was going to get too froggy and jump. I was like, I knew she was.
You should speak with Audrey Walters. She has a lot of connections to her lineage to Stargate activation. And she knows a lot about Stargates. Like the military will take her and ask her, what's up with this Stargate? How come it doesn't work? She's like, oh, well, there's another twin Stargate. That's the copper one, and there's a silver one and a gold one. So over here and over there. And to activate this one, you got to find the other two. And they're like, how did you know that?
Wow. Oh, do we have her book yet, Don?
Not yet. I just found out about her from Rob's show, so I haven't got that far yet.
Whoa, I love all these beautiful people out here bringing forth all this information. My heart, oh, it's
Yeah.
just so amazing. And you know why it's happening is because it is this time. It wasn't meant for the past. They had a lot of work to do, and so we are the lucky ones. This is our mission, our cleanup job. Isn't that wonderful? But we get to, bring all this information forward. So
yeah, I see this as a positive timeline. As long as we do everything we can to walk the light, raise our vibration, be true, be principled, get close to source,
Yeah. No, but I just wanted to get back to as well, like Brian's upcoming event is like the who of interesting people you want to talk to, because like that panel that you've put together just left my mouth agape. I was like, yeah, if you want to bring that back up, like this panel is just something out of this world. Like I was proud of myself because in an upcoming Mad Chatter, I managed to get Frank Castle, Rob Kellel, and Chris Matthew in one show. You have like got the rest of the universe. Like this is the fucking Avengers. Like,
yeah, we're doing a show tomorrow with Rob and Laura Eisenhower. Are you joining us, Don?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So that'll be nice. Yeah, I just stumbled across this aspect of the whole part. I was on my mission, and so I'm now like reaching out to people and like sharing my story. So yeah, I'm so out of the loop and I don't get the memos. So I don't know when a lot of these events are happening until after they happen. So
what state are you in, Maya?
I'm in Vermont.
Okay. You want half off a general general access pass?
Sure.
Let's see.
Oh shit.
I was looking at your website because I was like, I would love to stay connected and how can I, get involved, because I love people who are just everyday people like us. We're not trying to sound like nobody crazy. We're just normal people trying to like do our job as a light worker. And so that's what I love about Rob, because his brain is sponge. I'm like, how do you remember all of that information? Like, wow.
And his mind is still getting blown these days, which is
I know.
Awesome to see. Audrey blew his mind for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
yes.
So I just wanted to show you a little bit about the event. The way we're setting it up, it's 4 days, right? And so, this is general admission. It was 420, great number.
Right.
The early bird VIP tickets, this includes, what we're doing is on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, each of the evenings of the event, we're going to do a special event dinner. The first night special event dinner is open to everyone. So we've got like 30 presenters, and then we've got room for like 90 people. Okay. And that's going to be a benefit for the Full Disclosure Now Foundation, or Oregon. It's 501c3, which is costing me personally like $5,500 just to set up. Okay. So I'm trying to raise the money to offset setting up the nonprofit so that I can continue to do the work that I've been doing already, like donating resources to people. Might as well get tax write-offs for that and get other people donating, because I can't carry that forever. And this comes, and then the VIP tickets, that gets you automatically on the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night dinners. Okay. Your meals are included. So that comes with 3 dinner meals included. And that's like $120 value a meal. That's what it's costing us to pay the resort per head. Okay. And then what we're doing is the VIPs will get to sit with the presenters, and we're going to have some panel discussions. A humorous Ask Me Anything panel. We're going to do an SS Peer and remote viewer panel. And then we're going to do an intergalactic and inner Earth costume party, dinner ball, and contest blowout on the final night. So
Wow.
we're trying to pack in a lot of value for people,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
That
And
sounds
the
great.
early bird, does that I'm trying to find that page. I was looking at your website, but I was trying to find that section. I've somehow lost myself. Oh, is it under that one? Oh, the early bird.
Well, what happens is you from the main homepage, you hit like get tickets, and then get
Right.
tickets will then take you to where you can get the early bird general admission or VIP, or then you can also get tickets to the individual event dinners.
Nice. Does the
Yeah.
VIP include hotel room?
It does not, but the hotel room, we did manage to get them to offer us a really great discount on the stay. So
Okay.
each room, you get 2 queen size beds, and then they are 200, it's 199 a night. So plus taxes, it comes up to 220 a night, which for July at St. Pete Beach at a resort of this caliber is a great deal. And so what I say to people is buddy up with a roommate, share. Now you got a room, you each get your own queen bed, now you're paying $110 a night and you're at a beach resort in July in Florida at a primo conference, and I like to think, $100 a day for a 4-day conference, it's pretty fair. And then if you want to do it up, do the VIP stuff. And in the meantime, because we've got such an amazing collection crew of people, and all the attendees and the day of being crew, and we're going to be at the beach where in addition to conference, you're also going to get nightlife and partying and dancing and hanging out and a beach weekend for free if you go to that. So it's kind of like, I can't give you any more value than that, can I, people? Like,
Where's
really?
this at? In Key
Um,
West?
it's not Key West, but it's a Serrata Beach Resort. So it's just outside of Tampa,
Oh,
Florida. Let me see if I can find.
in July.
Yeah.
I was going on a road trip.
So do you have your own experiences as well? I know you put on these events and stuff, but have you had your own SSP or own experiences as well?
More
Or
like
are you a
I've had
researcher like Rob?
I've had some paranormal stuff, and then I have a knowing, you know, source God told me to get out of San Francisco, as a scamdemic kicked in, and then I sold my place in SF. That my when I was a community organizer working with doctors, there's a family of doctors that were selling properties in SF, and I got my dad, who basically did really well in the 80s and 90s, pioneering computer graphics chips and the computer graphics industry in the 80s and 90s. With that money, it afforded me and my 2 brothers to basically do whatever we wanted. So I got to go to Occidental College, paid for my full ride, got my biochem degree and all that. Um, when I wanted to, when I got sick of the biochem field, but I wanted to use my biochem degree, I found a group called Physicians Organizing Committee to organize doctors and fight for patient care. Um, we bought from one of the families of doctors a house in SF. And I was so whole hog in the organizing, my parents didn't want to give the whole house over to me, which they could have. Oh, I'm crying. They only gave me half, right? I'm not crying. Any house is great. I'm not crying. Okay. Um, but needless to say, I got to sell that house, pay my parents back, and then move out here to a mansion basically in northern Nevada, which is to some people in the middle of nowhere, but boy did we trade up. And that was from listening to source and intuition and a knowing and what to do. And I feel like I've been guided all my life along this path to be where we are now, to help drive the movement however I can with all these other amazing, beautiful people.
Do you feel like you've always been put in the position to make the choice to help people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if anything, this is a spiritual life, it's a spiritual battle. I know we talk about full disclosure now, and people get onto the sci-fi stuff, but it's really all spiritual. And so and then if I come from, like, I like the Dolores Cannon school of thought. You've got your waves of starseed volunteers who answered the call that God's source put out many years ago to say, this planet Earth is in trouble. There's a lot of darkness here when it should be a place of beauty. Step up. What souls out there want to come and manifest here and be part of this? And I think a lot of, the people in our community, we're those souls, like the Hopi prophecy. We're the people we prophecy, right? Here we are.
Yeah.
You know what I think
further
it
to
is?
that,
Oh, sorry, Don. Go ahead.
further to that, Brian, I also think in some of my sessions with Maya, I had a vision of like crystals of information and basically being coming from another planet and like splitting even further into like molecules and landing into Earth and being imbibed by humans. And to me, that's what I believe our consciousness is, and that's the liquid crystal form that's in your pineal gland. Because if you actually open your pineal gland, it's liquid crystal, and I believe that's the crystalline information that we're all attached to throughout the entire universe.
Yeah, crystals are a physical manifestation of consciousness. That's why or they can hold consciousness, like quartz crystals, clear quartz, for example, in particular, is supposed to be the best for that, right? And imprinting it or clearing it and putting whatever you want on that. And like, look at the crystal, Mitchell Hedges crystal skull, for example. And, I think part of it is that the reason why we're here on a timeline is I like to think when, Maya asks, hey, Brian, do you feel like I was given the choice to help or hurt? Because if you're not helping, you can be hurting or neglecting. And I think that if I made the choices where I decided not to help or even hurt or take advantage or satisfy my ego at the expense of another. Okay, 1 second. That's Carl Dory. He's another presenter at the conference. He's going to be there. But if I'd made the negative choices and the rest of us had made the negative choices, then we would be here having a very different conversation on a negative timeline. But I like to think I try to make, in general, the more positive choices. And I think the rest of us have here, and here we are now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was 15, I tried to exit this world. And I ended up in a coma for 3 days and when I woke up, I was angry. I was like, I'm still here. No way. And I tried again 5 months later. But that didn't work either. And then it wasn't until years later, 15 years later, or plus, actually more than 15 years later, I had finally started coming across Dolores Cannon stuff. And I was like, oh man, she really touched me inside, just listening to everything she was saying. I bought all her books, well, not all of them, but I bought a handful of her books and just binge watched her videos and just really wanted to learn what she was doing. And I had called Dr. Brian Weiss. I had heard a YouTube video and I was like, let me just call this guy. And so I called him and I actually got to speak with him, and I didn't know who to talk to. And I told him my story. And the first thing he says to me, and the first thing he says is, what took you so long to get here? And I just cried like a baby. I was like, oh my God, somebody understands me. Like, what is happening? I was thinking I was getting abducted by aliens. Sure enough, I did get abducted when I had my 3-day exit. But I found out it was the Syrians that took me aboard their spaceship and adjusted my frequency and sent me back because I had a big mission. And they weren't letting me go that easy. And I had tried at least 7 to 10 different times to try to take myself out. And every time they intervened, every time they were like, no, they keep stopping me. So
if it's any consolation, what it means is that in your other states of being, they're so high and amazing and awesome that this incarnation here on Earth is like, oh my God, what am I doing here? So
this place rocks.
Well, once I finally gave myself up, I said, you know what? I'm giving my whole self to the mission, to the source, to God, whatever you want me to do. I just want to do whatever you want me to do. Bring the people. Yes, a complete surrender. And that was something I was struggling with. I was like, surrender.
Yeah, you fought, man. You fought. You tried to take yourself out 7 times. You fought.
Yeah. And that's what I'm teaching these other people. I'm like, we have to remember who we are. And you know, it's an interesting mission. We all have amazing stories. We are all part of the puzzle. Not one person can handle the whole mission themselves. It is too heavy for one person. We need each other, and that's why us light workers have to be supportive, you know. And that's what I'm doing. I'm here to help connect and help support everybody, because I just get so emotional when I talk about this stuff. It's really important, you know. It's really important, right, Don?
Yeah, that was something that they touched on too, was the emotion and whatnot. But what I wanted to get at was the V2K being common amongst people in SSP. And I'll take you there why, because when I was 14, I put a firearm in my mouth because something on the school bus was telling me over and over again that I should go home and end it all. Now, let's jump ahead to how smart I am now with what I understand about what I understand. We lived near the region's largest Canadian broadcast corporation tower, and that town also had a very high rate of like domestic abuse. There was murders, there was hostage takings, there was missing persons, there was suicides.
Is it like Saskatoon? Where?
No, it was up in Ontario.
Ontario.
But it's in northwestern Ontario, or southwestern Ontario, sorry. But it's right up on the end of a peninsula. But there was like hostage takings and murders and people kidnapping their own family and all of this shit. And it was all around the same time that I decided to get off the school bus. And if it hadn't been for a neighbor girl coming to borrow a Nintendo game, it would have been lights out, because she knocked on the door and snapped me back out of what I was doing. Because it wasn't me. I love my life. The voice just told me to go home and do it, go home and do it, go home and do it. So I went home and did it. And then she knocked on the door.
Right.
And that's what I was getting at, was the commonality of V2K with SSP, especially when it comes to self-harm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, there's
Well,
Omega
that's-
programming.
Yeah, that's what they say. They say that they try to take us out because we are the light. We are here to do our mission. So the battle is against us, the light. They're trying to constantly take us out, and they are relentless. That's why you have to show and protect yourself.
Or after they used Don, got what they wanted from him, exploited him, and slayed, and then take him out. That's not par for the course.
Well, and that's funny because I left home at 15. Like, I all of a sudden felt like I was more mature than my parents. I all of a sudden felt like I didn't need to live under an adult. I was just done being a child, and then I went and decided to be a grown-up. And it was like shortly after my 15th birthday, I just came home from school one day, packed my stuff, and told my mother goodbye, and just left.
That's like Tony Rodriguez in a way.
It was just the end of my childhood. I was just done with it.
I want to introduce you guys to Winnie. Winnie the Wonder Dog. She's going to be at the conference as well. And she's the one where, here, Winnie, come here. Winnie, come here. You got it. People, the headliners of other conferences like Contact in the Desert or Disclosure Fest, they always come up because they want to meet Winnie, and so she'll be there as well.
Is that a corgi?
No, she's a part when you can get down. She's always shy. She's a half Australian Shepherd and half American Border Collie, and she's a mini on both sides.
Oh. I have a little Yorkie.
Do you remember that there was a dog that was famous for a minute in the 80s, Mike the dog, that could do all of these amazing tricks? That's what your dog reminds me of.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at,
it's a breed
that was
Border
identical.
Collie.
Benji and Lassie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Honey, I don't know this video.
Okay, so we'll give you another chance to give all the links and stuff. We're actually really fortunate. He's come up and name drop a few times. I'm going to share right after this is a brand new track by Arkeem Raw. It's called Centuries, and he just released it the other day, and I'm going to put it right after this. But if, Brian, you want to give a shout out really quick to all your links that are going to be in the description, and where people can get a hold of you. And then Maya, you can do the same after.
Yeah, thanks so much. And that new track, I'm asking Arkeem, and he said yes, he wants to perform at our event in Florida in July. And then you'll see the cover art for that song, I believe it's like cities with airships over it, right? And what Arkeem is saying is that this is his testimony. He says that he remembers seeing timelines where the Hindenburg disaster didn't happen, and so airships were still a thing. And it turned out that they were safe and fine, and it was pretty freaking cool. So where people want to find me, the best place right now is fulldisclosuremovement.org to really come and attend the event or get the word out, because the testimonies of these folks needs to be heard. And then the other place to find me is here on Fakebook. I'm wearing the Willy Wonka top hat here in my profile picture. And please send me a message if it'll allow you to let me know, that you saw me here on the show. Thank you.
Yeah. And just a footnote, you definitely want to, because just the breadcrumb memes that I find on your page every day that make me go, wait a minute, what? Oh, I want to look at this because he mentioned this, and now I'm thinking about this. This is a guy that even if you don't add him, check out the stuff that he posts, because they're little breadcrumbs, people, and they're gonna help you.
That's right. So what does it take to be one of these speakers in like one of these future events? Because
future event, you're getting in early, and I could definitely reserve you a spot. What I can share with everyone right here is, let me share my screen. This is what our lineup looks like right now for the speaker schedule. We're going to have our main stage, which we can have up to 380 people, and our second stage, where we can have up to 50 people. Okay, so the main action is going to be the primary stage here. And that's where we're going to have an opening ceremony, clearing in blessings, and then boom, Penny Bradley. And every presenter is going on for about an hour and 45-minute slot. Okay, and then there's a little bit of 15-minute wiggle room to clear the room and all that. And then we got Shannon Leischner and Jerry Yusko, Chris O'Connor, Tony Rodriguez. And then we're going to have that first foundation benefit dinner. And then we've got a local bar right up the beach where we're going to be partying and dancing till about midnight. And then the next day, it'll be Nancy Thames and Drago Reed, lunch, then Arkeem and Alyssa Zender, Yeme Janae, the Farsight Institute, and then boom, the humorous Ask Me Anything dinner. And each day looks pretty much like that, where I've already filled up the main stage, and then I'm trying not to super fill up the secondary stage, but I do have like 1 or 2 slots left. But then just know you're going to be competing with like Carrie Cassidy, at the same time, and you'll be in the smaller room. But what I like about it is it's allowing me to either give the people who are like the newer folks to the community who have yet to really be introduced to make a splash, but not too much pressure on them. Okay, folks like Carl Dory, Alondra Markman, Sean Bond, Christopher and Joanna. They're not as SSP. They're more on the healer side. So that's also another consideration. How SSP are you? And Mario and Barry. So if you want it, Maya, I've got a slot. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'd say up to 7 or even 8 spots on the secondary spot if you wanted. But I've been slow prioritizing putting anyone in those slots because, like I said, some people might not want to compete with Yeme Janae at prime time.
Right. Well, if I would do it, I really just want to promote and really talk about, because I can talk about the healing and all that stuff all day long, but what we're doing with my crew is we're doing kind of amazing things. We got new technology, we got starships. Like I would love to have my team be able to talk about their experience too. I mean, I can always talk, do my part, but then in the future as well, it would be nice to be able to bring them, because they're the ones that are going under experiencing these things. I'm guiding them, and I'm, helping them with their process, and we're creating.
Well, I've
But
got a slot. I do have a slot for you. You could go at 4:30 to 6:20 on the second stage while Matthew Mornian is on the prime
I love him.
Okay, I could put
can't
you at
go
a different
against
time.
what-
I could put you at a different time. I could put you at let me see. Oh, when that's in the morning. I could put you on when Laura is on. That's the last night, Thursday.
Laura Eisenhower.
Yeah, you'd be on the second stage when Laura's on, or
My people. But when you said there was a morning slot.
you could do a morning slot. There's when
Oh.
Misha's on, when Audrey's on, when Nancy Thames is on, and then I wouldn't recommend the first morning slot because that's when we're doing the opening ceremony and then Penny.
Oh,
What
right.
actually no, you could go when Penny is on. So any of those slots are available.
There's a few people that I didn't know. I know Penny, I know Matthew, I know Laura. I would love to be able to watch their stuff. But anyone else, I don't really know who they are in the morning. You could definitely throw me in one of those slots. I'll come. I'll go.
Let's do Misha. We could put you on the morning of Thursday the 18th, or because I kind of want you to see Audrey's.
Right?
I think you should see hers for sure.
Yeah, I would love to, for sure.
Well, I could do you could either go in the morning of Tuesday, Tuesday morning when Nancy Thames is going.
That's good.
We actually have her coming up on the show too.
Oh, really? Do we? On your show or my show?
You're like the Mad Chatter, yeah.
Yeah, we got a who's who here. I'm super proud of this lineup. I really couldn't be more happy. I mean, there are more people. I'm always like happy. I want to add more people, and there are more people like, oh man, we should like James Greavy or I'm messing up his name, but there are a couple people out there. There are definitely more people out there. We'll probably do it. We're going to do it bigger and better next year. But so far, this is looking pretty darn good. And Maya,
that's amazing.
Reach out to me on Facebook later on, and we'll lock in details.
Yes, we're friends on Facebook, so definitely that'll be awesome, because we are the real Star Trek now. We have a logo, we have a ship, we've been on a rescue mission. Don has a badass part. Him and Chris were cleaning their guns. They were getting ready to do a rescue mission on this Pleiadian ship that was stranded, gonna die if we didn't come along. And so it's pretty interesting. It's really happening, is what people don't seem to understand. It's fun and games, but we're also doing real stuff. It's right, Don. Like, how would you even explain your experience for this journey?
It's very weird because everything is tactile. Like when you get far enough into it, it's like the most realistic version of virtual reality you could ever think of, except the goggles are just the back of your eyelids and the screen is your pineal gland.
See, I'd love to. I want to work with you guys then, because every time people try to hypnotize me or put me under, and I've tried multiple times with some heavy hitters, and I barely get anything. A tinge, am I seeing anything? Am I not? I feel like I'm one of those people where, I volunteered for this mission, so I've been blocked from abilities. But then it also means that as long as I stay on the path, no one can mess with me. That's kind of like the feelings that I get so far. But in the meantime, I don't get astral projection, telepathy, Every now and then I'll get a prophetic dream and I have knowing.
Yeah. Well, we all play different roles. We all have different roles, and it's funny because our backgrounds come from different places as well. There's some, like Dawn's connection with the Druids and from Jupiter and the Irish, and I think maybe even English bloodlines and stuff. I have some Isis and Pleiadian and Syrian and Arcturian connections. like we all have these different connections and we're all here to help each other. So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know, I went on a tangent again. But no, it's beautiful to work to do this stuff. It really is. And I could do
Yeah.
it. I've got some hard people, let me tell you, and I could say in 20 minutes I'll have you anywhere. As Dawn, like how hard was it for you to go under and Spinja and your son, and like I've done quite a
Oh,
few.
yeah. The first time she did the full long induction, it was much like I was explaining the channeling the other day, is like I was present, but it was my I am present speaking, like my literal higher self, the highest form of me that exists in any reality, was the one answering her questions.
Right.
The pilot of the avatar was kind of in the back seat, just listening.
Right.
And that's the exact kind of same way it is when I channeled. And I mean, it is shit luck and accident when it happens. The one time I was my partner's estranged deceased father, which was a very fucked up conversation to have. We'll get into that another time.
He was estranged. That's a rough one.
Yeah, like I was told to call her a nickname that only he knew about from her childhood, and she had never told me.
Right.
And yeah, it was. But like I literally get not knocked out of my body. It's not a walk-in. I'm just behind me, and they're talking.
Yeah, you're a
Right.
channel.
And that's a lot of the same way hypnosis works, is when she gets a hold of your higher self, you're there, but you're listening, because she'll actually get your higher self to tell you shit that you need to know.
Well, then when we're in Florida, Maya, what we should do is, in addition to giving you time on the second stage that Tuesday morning, we can also put your booth space in the readers, healers, and psychics gallery. So the idea is that that's the second day, Tuesday morning, your presentation, and let people know, hey, at the end of my presentation here, come on up, sign up on the clipboard. I'm doing sessions with people upstairs in the healers, readers, psychics gallery. And you
Ooh.
occupy a really special niche. I mean, doing work, particularly elevating reptilians, that's a good place to be right now. Yeah, that's like being the person who's like able to get people off of their fentanyl addiction. And who wants me? Downtown Philly, San Francisco, LA, Timbuktu, you name it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have helped some people. I have seen some things. I had a girl who had a gray attached to her that was trying to kill her. She had tumors. She was bedridden. She was so psychic she could see this. And someone had heard me on a social app. They heard me talking about this stuff because I was called to talk about it, even though I was getting thrown tomatoes at. They're like, get out of here. But I kept
What's your
saying,
website?
like, help you. I can help you. Come to me. Help me. If you need help, come find me. And then finally someone said, I know someone that could use your help. 7 months later, she finally reaches out to me. The next day I do a session with her, and for 4 hours, I'm battling a gray. For 2 hours it took to leave her body, but he wouldn't leave because he was just as strong as an archangel. So he wouldn't let the archangels in. He wouldn't let nobody in. And so I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? And I was thinking, he's a man, he's a gray, he's angry. She had heartbreak. I said, I know, I'll call in the divine goddesses of love. And I called in every goddess I could think of. And I asked my friend, I'm like, what does it look like? Can you see them? And she said, yes, they're here. They're forming a ring around him. She says it was a glowing ring, and she could see there were like these gigantic women, goddesses, and they had their hands palm to palm to each other, and they formed a ring around him and brought all this love into him. Wow. And finally he broke. He was like, you would do that for me? And I was like, yes, I'm trying to tell you, I'm here to help you. I love you. And he couldn't believe it. And then I asked Yeshua to come in. Jesus, I'm like, Jesus, can you come in and offer him like a cup of love, like a cup of Joe? I was like, can you give him a cup of love? And he drank it. And he finally, like, it was a process, but it was the first alien I had to deal with. And my husband had came in when I was battling him, and he was so mad. He was like, you're battling a gray in my room. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to help this girl.
Did your husband see it? Did your husband have sight as well?
No, he's got his own spiritual
Okay.
thing going on.
Mm.
But he's not, he's not ready for, he's connected to Yeshua. He
Okay.
doesn't want to admit it, but I'm connected to Mary Magdalene. He's connected
Hmm.
to Yeshua.
Okay.
So I'm like, yeah, he's on another mission.
What's your website? I want to book a session with you.
SOS QHT.
Uh,
SOS.
And yes, that's awesome timing, because I was going to mention, Maya, you had mentioned this to Karen Holton. Could you not link his website in this event to your website?
Yes, I totally can. Yeah, I got
yeah.
to do that.
I
I
was
got to contact my website lady. I got a few people. I have a resource section on my website where I like to put people that in the spiritual community that I'm working with. Rob's on there. My website, Alexa. Um, yeah, that was her story, by the way. Alexa, you still
I'm an
cool?
advocate is what I am for out there. I'm an advocate and organizer. And
and
then I could
what you're doing.
link your link into the bio, because I'll need you to send me your preferred headshot picture, and then a little like blurb of how you want you to be described, and then a link of your choice, and then like when for example, when I click on Misha's we're not Misha, someone we filled out, like Penny's, it'll take you to their website and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I just want, I have my own experiences. I've seen a UFO. I've had every kind of clairvoyant experience you can think of. But at this point in my journey, I've gotten so high on the steps climbing that I'm so ready to teach other people. And so I'm doing this. I've taken it to such another level. This level is so big. The cosmic party that he's talking about was New Year's Eve. We had Rob show up on the ship.
Oh
That
yeah.
was the day it was New Year's Eve, and I was like, we're going to initiate everybody, and we're going to form our crew. And that's when we came up with the Cosmic Crusaders, and our ship's name is Tandori. She's a crystal starship. She's a Pleiadian, and she's alive. And we did a session once, and one of the girls we had all had a funky day. We did a hypnosis session, and she was a little upset because we were not high vibe enough to be on her ship. And so we had to do some quick work to like raise the vibration. We have med beds too.
Mm-hmm.
Dawn can tell you about that stuff. Our sessions are phenomenal. And right now it's just I think we're still in shock, kind of like we're all kind of in shock. Like, did this really happen? Is this happening? Because it is so phenomenal. And they even said like this technology that you guys are using is new. Because on my spaceship I sent out love. We have like a club on our ship, and so we could party. And so we send out blasting love through the speakers, and so all these spaceships show up, and the ones that aren't high vibe enough, they don't see us, but they can feel it, so it helps them raise their vibration. So they said that what we were doing was just unbelievable, because it was new technology. And so, like I said, we're doing big things out there. My team's got to be proud of themselves. They really should be proud. They really should.
Yeah.
I'm proud of them.
We were doing like 5 to 7 hour sessions. Some of them were 2 or 3. And like the etheric energy that it takes, you feel like you got your ass whooped for about 3 days after when you go for 5. Like, you are out of time. You are participating in the universe as you are required and no longer on linear time. And you're just doing what needs done. So when you pop back here, you're like, what the, like, the time dilation and the sensation of it is absolutely phenomenal.
I bet over
But
time you'll get better at it. Over
yeah,
time it'll drain you less.
unfortunately, for now, we're gonna have to leave this like my high school homework and have you back on, because this is gonna have to remain unfinished. We can go in a while. But we are going to have Arcane Raw Centuries right after this, as well as a commercial for Typical Skeptic. As they go, Rob's channel, support, like, and share all of his stuff. Pop all of the links in the description, because this event that Brian is putting together looks phenomenal. We will say goodbye for now and see you next week, folks.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh.
My past will outlast me. Ask me if I agree with my choices now. I'd say no. be with you. I could tell you everything you would never believe it's true. Caterpillar leaves chrysalis and knows exactly where to fly. I hardly remember that or our other lives, walking through the sands of time, through the centuries, creating this reality. Everything that you see. Do you remember other centuries? Do you remember what you said to me on another world in a different time? You said you'd never forget me and you'd always be mine, but that was another life. That feels like a dream. Now I don't know what is up or down or in between. Nothing is black and nothing is white. Everything is wrong. It doesn't feel right.
Ugh. Best part of waking up. Typical skeptic coffee cup. Warning, drinking from this cup may wake you up. Further ascension not guaranteed. Don't forget to stop by the Typical Skeptic merchandise store to get this coffee cup and much, much more. Link in the description below.
My past will outlast me. Ask me if I agree with my choices now. I'd say no. I'd ask if that's me, 'cause I don't recognize myself.